Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing-related tweets, or you can subscribe to this YouTube channel to get notifications whenever a new video has been uploaded. Let's talk Danny Garcia against Errol Spence. What a fantastic performance from Errol Spence. He was out, obviously, for a very long time after a terrible car accident. The state he was in, I'll make the thumbnail of this video the picture of him, or I'll cut and paste it as next to it so you could see what he looked like. It's truly incredible that he came back from that. But let's talk about the technical breakdown. What went wrong for Danny Garcia? How did Errol Spence win this fight? By the way, I've got an issue with the monitor that keeps flashing, so if you keep seeing me going darker and brighter, you'll know why. Sorry if it becomes a little bit annoying. So basically, Danny Garcia, early in the fight, was looking to exchange counter, really. He was looking to counter Errol. Errol was looking to come forward, land some big, powerful shots. He was getting behind the jab. It was a very effective jab. And Danny was looking, every time Errol looked to throw a big shot and he would hold his feet to throw that shot, Danny would instantly look to throw with him, throw that well-timed counter that he's famous for. This is something that Dillian Whyte does very well as well in the heavyweight division. It's that thing of the minute you throw, you put yourself into danger when you're up against me, because I'm going to shoot a big counter, powerful shot back. And that's what Danny is very, very good at doing. And in the first round, I thought that he took the first round, but the first 3 rounds were swing rounds. They were very close. I had Errol Spence 2-1 up at that point. By the end of the fight, by the way, I had Spence winning 9 rounds to 3. But those 3 rounds, although I had Spence 2-1 up, they were close rounds. Because it was much of the same thing happening. Spence then started to move forward and try to take the pocket away. And what he was doing effectively by doing that is he was getting his lead leg, his lead foot, obviously he's fighting out with Southpaw stance, on the outside of Danny Garcia's lead leg, and he was leaning in by putting his right shoulder towards Danny's chest and going to work in the body and just, upstairs as well, but forcing Danny back. And by trying to force Danny back, what that did is it stopped Garcia from planting his feet, having a wide sort of stance, and launching himself in with his hooks. He couldn't generate the leverage to come in with hooks or that straight right hand, especially the left hook. It took the left hook away from Danny, which is obviously his best shot. It stopped Danny from being able to have the maneuver, the space to rotate at the hips and really deliver the big, powerful shots he does. What Danny should have been looking at doing, and just as I mentioned this, by the way, on Twitter, Teddy Atlas mentioned it as well. He mentioned, so I wanted to message Teddy and say, look, Teddy, snap. Teddy basically said, as I wrote, he said that Danny needs to be looking for the uppercut. I went into a little bit more detail in my tweet and explained how he was getting the right leg, the right leg outside of Danny's lead leg, and what he had to really be doing at that point, Danny, is shooting that right uppercut. And a couple of rounds before, he had his back on the ropes and he shot that lead powerful uppercut, that right uppercut, and it did catch Spence, and then he moved off to the side. Now, obviously, Errol Spence is a machine. He kept coming and shots were bouncing off him. But they were affecting him. There were some really good body shots that Danny was throwing, digging that midriff. The right hands were affecting Spence. There were a couple of times where he took a step back. He felt those powerful shots. The problem is he needed that leverage. He needed that space, rather, to generate that leverage. And he needed to find something to deter Errol from being able to stay in that pocket and lean on Danny Garcia. And because he wasn't throwing the uppercut, he struggled to do that. Towards the end of the fight, you saw that Errol, in the last, I think it was the 9th and the 10th, Errol took his foot off the gas a little bit. He took the rounds off to rest and he got on the back foot. And at that point, when you saw that Danny had some room to work and it became, he had the room to be able to counter and lead with power shots, he shortened up his punches. They weren't just big swings, and he was landing, and he won those 2 rounds. And it was a bit baffling as to why Errol took those rounds off, but clearly he was just preserving his energy, because he upped the tempo again in the last 2 rounds. And by then, Danny didn't have much left. At the end of the fight, right at the end of the fight, he threw some flurries. And in fact, at a lot of the end of the rounds, quite a few of the end of the rounds, Danny finished them quite well. But Errol had built up such a lead up until those last, say, 30 seconds, that it would have been hard not to be giving him the rounds. But the point is, the key for me in this fight, what really won Errol Spence the fight, was firstly 2 things. Firstly, the consistency of the jab. And obviously, Danny was countering quite often. And there was one point in the fight up until just past the midway fight. I haven't seen the final CompuBox stats, but up until I think it was just past the midway point, Danny had landed more power shots than Errol Spence according to CompuBox. So the power shots were fine, but he was doing an awful lot of work behind the jab, Errol, and Danny wasn't competing with that jab. And what he really needed to do is to deter. He needed to deter Errol from being able to sit in that pocket, to land those jabs, come close, collapse the pocket, as Dwyer says in his phrase, and then to be able to force Errol back and start timing him with those shots on his way in, and then follow him on his way out to lead off with shots. That when Errol was moving away, moving backwards, and Danny was following him and throwing power shots, he was having success. But like I said, he couldn't deter him from doing that collapsing of the pocket. He couldn't force Errol consistently enough to get on that back foot so that he could go to work. From Errol Spence's perspective, what we saw again is another terrific example of his ability to adapt, his ability to change up what he does. Whether he gets behind a jab and he wants to outbox you and outwork you, he's capable of doing that. If he wants to get up close and force you back and keep you off balance and hurt you and go to war and rip that body, he's able to do that. If you want a straight up boxing match where you're trading technical chess sort of boxing or a war, he's able to do that. So this is a very, very competent fighter who's capable of doing everything, and that's why he's called The Truth. I was very disappointed that he didn't call out Crawford at the end of the fight. This is the fight we all need to see. And I know there's promotional issues, but as fighters, I really wish that he would be banging a drum for this fight now. Whatever the case might be, it was a terrific fight. Really enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, guys. I had it 9-3 to Spence, but it was a good fight. Chat to you soon.